Welcome to Reno's World podcast, where truth slips through the cracks and myth whispers in the dark. I'm Reno Rains. Tonight's topic, are psychic abilities genuine or merely a myth? Buckle up. Let's dive in. In 1975, the CIA paid a man to sit in a dark room and see inside a Soviet missile silo without leaving the building. And he did. He described the shape of the silo, the position of the warhead, even the number of technicians inside. Weeks later, satellite photos confirmed it. But that man never touched a camera or a plane or a wiretap. He claimed he did it with his mind. Okay, wait. Let's slow this down, because if that's true, we're not just talking about a secret program. We're talking about decades of government-funded psychic warfare. Programs that officially never existed, disavowed, shredded, accidentally lost in a file fire, as one memo puts it. So let's rip that file open, because what we're dealing with might be realer than anyone is ready to admit. But to understand how the US government got into the business of psychics, we need to rewind, not to the Cold War, to 1892 in a parlor in Boston, where a woman named Leonora Piper entered a trance so deep, Harvard professors called it medically impossible. And then she started speaking in French, fluently. Leonora Piper had never studied French. She had never left Massachusetts. And yet she answered obscure philosophical questions with the precision of a university scholar. Transcripts were published. The American Society for Psychical Research declared, "This is no fraud. This is something we do not yet understand." Now fast forward to 1941, World War II. The U.S. military receives a letter from a woman named Jean Dixon. In it, a warning. A man named Adolf Hitler will bring fire to the world. He must be stopped. They laughed, until her next prediction about the death of FDR hit too close to home. She was quietly placed on a watch list, not for threats, for accuracy. Jump again. 1972. A declassified DIA report, still partially redacted, details an experiment where men at Stanford Research Institute used something called remote viewing. Not imagination, not guessing, but a protocol, a reproducible process to mentally observe targets from thousands of miles away. One of those men, Ingo Swann. Swann is asked to describe a hidden location. No clues, no hints. He says underground base, massive, metallic structures, very cold, possible lunar origin. The location? The moon. And before you roll your eyes, NASA officials were in the room. They logged it. They tested him again and again. And then the program vanished. Publicly, they called it nonsense. Privately, they rebranded it Stargate. Now this is where it spirals. From 1978 to 1995, Stargate cost taxpayers over $20 million, funding psychic operatives to locate hostages, intercept foreign intel, and even spy on enemy thoughts. One psychic, Joseph McMonigle, claimed to locate Soviet submarines, secret research labs, even underground base on Mars. This can't be coincidence. No way. Look at this. In 2001, the CIA released hundreds of pages on Stargate under FOIA. They admitted certain individuals performed significantly above chance. Findings warrant further study. And then, total silence. No follow-up, no funding, no public explanation, just a quiet shutdown. But the witnesses never stopped talking. Major Ed Dames went on Coast to Coast AM, claiming the government now uses trained remote viewers for missing persons cases and terror threats. Lynn Buchanan, another Stargate operative, formed a private training group teaching civilians how to remote view classified targets. If this lit your brain on fire, you know what to do. And here's the kicker. As recently as 2019, the U.S. Army published a paper called "The Mind Has No Firewall." Inside, a proposal to explore psychotronic weapons, tools that use consciousness as a weapon. Weapons that don't exist yet. But what happened next would break every rule of logic we thought we understood. The CIA shut down Project Stargate in 1995. At least that's the official story. But according to the operatives who lived it, they were just moved off the books into black budget projects no one is allowed to talk about. Joseph McMonigle, known as Remote Viewer 001, was awarded the Legion of Merit for producing crucial intelligence unavailable from any other source. That is a military commendation for psychic work. Let that sink in. And McMonigle didn't stop when the project ended. He claimed he was still being asked by unnamed government entities to view foreign underground bunkers, nuclear storage sites, and even future events. They would give me a coordinate, and I'd sketch what I saw. Then 2 weeks later, it'd show up on CNN. When asked how it worked, McMoneagle just said, "It's like turning off your body and letting your mind travel. The more you question it, the less it works." Let's pause right there. Because if you're thinking this sounds like pseudoscience, if your brain is yelling, "This can't be real," you're not alone. Plenty of people inside the agencies felt the same way. In fact, in 1995, a CIA-sponsored evaluation of Stargate claimed the project lacked scientific rigor. But buried in the footnotes? A stunning admission. There is compelling evidence that remote viewing yielded actionable intelligence beyond chance. They shut it down anyway, or said they did. Now let's jump. 2014. Edward Snowden, deep in his document leaks, reveals NSA and CIA interest in cognitive weaponry. Terms like non-local awareness, synthetic telepathy, and quantum consciousness interface appear in confidential research logs. One file is simply titled, "Monarch Behavioral Augmentation via Directed Neural Pathways." It references a pilot study using audio and electromagnetic pulses to stimulate precognitive response in test subjects. What does that mean? They were trying to create psychics by machine. And while mainstream media ignored these breadcrumbs, DARPA quietly increased funding for its Biological Technologies Office, a division tasked with exploring the mind-body boundary. One of their focuses? Neurocognitive force enhancement. Wait, stop. You know what that sounds like? Government-issue psychic soldiers, and the deeper you dig, the worse it gets. Because this isn't just American. The Russians have their own version. Back in the 1980s, KGB officers trained children in psychotronic shielding. A 1983 Soviet military manual obtained by NATO referred to psychic warfare as the weapon of the future. They weren't just training people to see targets. They were training them to influence minds remotely. Fast forward to 2018, U.S. diplomats in Cuba and China began reporting mysterious symptoms: headaches, vertigo, sudden memory loss. They called it Havana syndrome. No physical cause was found, no environmental factors. But some intelligence officials floated a possibility so wild it stayed out of headlines. Non-local neural weapons may have been employed. Read that again. They're saying someone used psychic energy or a focused frequency linked to cognition to disable American personnel. That brings us back to the original question. Are psychic abilities genuine or just a myth? Because the governments of the world have spent millions treating them like they're real. They've documented results, they've awarded medals, they've erased trails. Let me give you one last breadcrumb, just one more. In 2006, a man named Gerald O'Donnell, former consultant to Western intelligence agencies, gave an interview claiming that the next evolution of warfare would be fought through consciousness. The battlefield will be the mind. Whoever controls thought controls reality. He wasn't dismissed. He wasn't debunked. He disappeared. And here's the twist you weren't expecting. In 2023, the U.S. Patent Office approved a filing titled System for Artificial Telepathy via Wireless Brain-to-Brain Interface. Inventor? Dr. James Giordano, Senior Fellow at the Department of Defense and one of DARPA's key neuroweapon consultants. We now have patents that essentially describe synthetic psychic networks, machines mimicking what remote viewers were doing 50 years ago, organically. Whether it's real or not almost doesn't matter. They're building it anyway. But let's end with the most grounded piece of evidence yet. A peer-reviewed meta-analysis from the University of Edinburgh reviewed over 1,400 experiments on precognition, telepathy, and clairvoyance. Result? Statistical significance. Not proof, but not noise either. So here's what we know. The CIA, DIA, NSA, and U.S. Army all funded and tested psychic phenomena. Results from certain individuals consistently exceeded chance. The programs were not shut down. They were renamed, reabsorbed, or privatized. Modern neuroscience and military patents show continued interest in consciousness as a weapon. And people, credible, trained, award-winning people, still say it's real. Whether it was misunderstanding, cover-up, or something far stranger, this case remains unresolved and very real.